So now I'm going to go through the history of what we've created with our bearings and our bushings. Starting originally, when we started this company almost a decade ago, we started with bushings. We very quickly changed away from bushings. What you'll find with that bushing is after a short period of time, especially if you're lifting something heavier, that starts to wear out. Now it's still going to operate, it's still going to spin, but it starts to make a lot of noise. So we decided, hey, we want to look at something different than what's over there. But before I do so, let me address the elephant in the room. You've probably been online, you've seen some posts on forums, YouTube, and things like that where people are calling out that we have bad bearings. I can assure you that is as far from the truth as possible. However, we did have an issue in April and May production series in 2020. So if you remember, COVID completely shut the world down. April and May completely shut down. Couldn't get anything from our OE supplier. We had issues getting hoses. Everything was resolved, and at that same period of time, customers just like yourself, where were you? You were back at home, working in your shop or garage because you couldn't work at the office anymore. So that meant most of our customers working from a laptop, taking conference calls. In between that, they were working on their car. Well, nobody wants to lay in their back working on their car, so they saw our lifts, and we had orders like crazy coming in, which was awesome, and thank you. We appreciate customers just like you. However, as mentioned, getting those parts was a challenge. So we were trying to produce at an even higher level when everything was shut down. So when our OEM bearing supplier was shut down, we had to look for another option. And we did find an option. They guaranteed us the same spec, the same quality, everything. And we were on a tight leash. We couldn't necessarily go see that at that time, but had orders like crazy coming in. So we committed, we bought a lot of product for those production runs. Now the challenge with that, what we found later on, that company, like many others during that period of time, was simply just trying to stay alive. They were selling anything they could do to bring revenue in, to keep the lights on, keep the doors open. I know you remember that period of time. It was a challenge, and it turned out to be a headache. However, we did correct everything. We put service bulletins out. We sent new product out to the customers. And as you've likely seen in some of the videos, when customers put a follow-up out, they thanked us. They appreciated that we actually reached out ahead of time, did the service bulletins, sent them what they needed. But what had happened, what occurred, their spec wasn't to what we needed. So when customers were utilizing this lift, when they got closer to the maximum limit, it would break some of the bearings, it would break the race, and the bearings would come out. It took us a while to figure this out because understand, April and May production series didn't start selling until a little bit later in the year. When they did finally start selling, all of a sudden we started getting calls and emails and had to backtrack and figure out what was going on. Understand, we were still in COVID at that time. So the world was a crazy place. It was hard to make sense of what was going on, to catch up. Once we finally did, that's when we sent out the service bulletins. We fixed everything up. But the issue was in April and May of 2020 production run. And it was with this particular bearing right here. It just wasn't from our OE supplier. The part that a lot of customers, when you're online, don't fully understand, I want to explain to you right now. We sold thousands of lifts with these exact bearings before April and May of 2020 and sold thousands after. However, the most common question we do get is, well, what about the bearings? I've seen issues with the bearings. And you can go online, you can see competitors' lifts, and you can find lots of issues they've seen. But with us, you understand we're a very quality product, and that is the one negative you see online. Hundreds of positive reviews, photos all over the place, YouTube videos. But then the bearings come out and you have that question. So we wanted to answer it right here for you and explain what happened for that short period of production run. Now, since that time, we have even upgraded our product even more. We've upgraded the pulleys, the sheaths, and even gone with a bigger, higher quality bearing, which I'm going to show you right now, just because we know as a customer, you want the absolute best from Wildfire Lifts, and that's all we produce. So let's go through the history of what we've created and why we truly feel we have the best components on the market. And what you will see, there are a lot of companies on the market, actually a majority, almost all of the companies on the market are using a bushing. It is significantly less expensive than going with something like a unsealed or even a sealed bearing. However, you have wear issues. What a lot of companies will do to combat that is they'll try to make a bigger axle. Now, they'll go with an axle that's significantly larger than is actually needed for the application, but it'll have a bigger surface area so it won't wear as quickly. We quickly moved away from that because that isn't something that we wanted. We then moved on to an open bearing. So when we first started, we thought, hey, the open bearing is going to be the way to go. Customers can easily grease it. They can put lithium in there. Whatever they need as a lubricating agent to make sure this moves very quickly, very easily, and without noise. The problem, as you can see, and it became pretty evident to us quickly, it's exposed. So grit, material, things like that started to get into it. And while we do have pulley covers over it, these do get pretty close to the ground. So we would get calls from customers saying, hey, it works, but I've got to clean it out, I've got to spray it out. It just wasn't what we wanted. So fairly quickly after that, we moved over to the fully sealed bearing. So same size, because this thing had worked like a champ, but we went to a fully sealed bearing. Now this has been great. You don't get the grit, you don't get the grime, you don't get anything in there. It's fully sealed under the application of what we utilize it for. It has an incredibly long lifespan, very quiet, and just operates very smoothly. Now, again, I had mentioned to you that we had the issues in April and May of 2020 with our bearings and pulleys. It was this exact same size bearing that became the issue. Because we had to go to that third-party supplier, as I explained, didn't quite get us what we needed for the spec. Now, since that time, as we get a lot of companies or customers that'll call, just like you, and ask, well, hey, what have you done to improve it? So instead of just saying we went back to the exact same thing that had worked for thousands of lifts before and thousands after, we've gone a step further and we've actually increased the size and the capacity load of our bearing. So as you'll see, significant size change here on the particular bearings. So this is just going to give us a much longer lifespan. Frankly speaking, like everything we do here at Wildfire, it's overkill. Honestly, we didn't need to go anywhere near this. However, we decided for customers, we wanted to do that. That's what we do here at Wildfire, is we step everything up. So as you can see, it's got a bigger sheave, it's got a bigger opening than on the other one. And to give you an idea, so here's what we've done. We take this actual solid block and then we mill this out. So we do mill this in-house. We mill this out to this particular set, and then our bearing would set in. Obviously, it's going to get pressed into here. The smaller bearing, to give you a size reference, here's what you're looking at. That's what we've used for years and years and years and have had no issue, minus that short period of time in April of May of 2020. But for you guys, we wanted to upgrade it. We know that you guys understand that Wildfire Lifts means quality, so we wanted to upgrade that for you. One other thing that I did want to note in that period of time that we've also changed, under our runway, we normally have gone with a double blocking pulley system. So I will show you that here. So what we've done with this size bearing is we'd have a single piece that would sit on an axle. So the axle would actually slide through, and in between here, we had a spacer. So you went axle, spacer, and then you went with your secondary bearing and pulley assembly. Now, when we had the issues in April and May of 2020, it wasn't so much on the singular crossbeam bearing and pulley, but it was on this double stack. And what we came to realize is that the bearings probably would have withstood what we needed. However, because these were separate pieces, you were getting a little bit more motion out of there, and it was causing more stress on that race, which caused it to fail. So what we've done to combat that, we've gone with a double block system. So right here, that is milled out of a single piece. So as you can see in here, we actually set our bearing in place, we put a spacer in, set another bearing, and then you have a retaining clip. So I'll show you right here. As you see, singular piece. So this is fresh off the milling floor. A single piece where your pulleys are going to ride through there. Again, what we do is you put your first bearing in, it's going to get pressed in place. We then have a spacer that's going to ride in between there. The second bearing would then go into place, and then you'd have your clip that's going to hold it all in. So you can see the difference between going with a stacked piece with the axle that doesn't support each other to the singular milled piece. It's just a significantly more robust piece. Now, did we need to do this? Absolutely not. Honestly speaking, if April and May 2020 didn't occur with the bearings, we probably never would have, because they worked great. However, here at Wildfire Lifts, as I've reiterated many times, we want the best quality components out there. We want to be known as the best product on the market, and we've done a really good job producing products with components that put us there. And the testimonials and the reviews online speak for that. But I needed to address it. Lots of customers ask us, what about the bearings? Everything else is great. What about the bearings? So this is what we've done. This is the history. This is where we started. This is where we've ended up. This is what we've created to ensure that you don't have those issues and you always have the best product on the market. If you have questions, let us know. I'd be happy to have the conversation with you, but hopefully this video explains to you what occurred. So now when you look online, you see videos, you see forums, you can put an understanding behind what has occurred. I'm Brad with Wildfire Lifts. We look forward to working with you. Please call us with any questions.